So
All right.
let's go ahead and get started.
All
All
right.
right, Victoria. Victoria, how did you get here?
So my road to gaming started really early. I had one of the original stay-at-home dads in the 80s, and his idea of child rearing was playing the Nintendo and letting me read the text aloud. So um, I grew up with Dragon Warrior 3, Destiny of the Emperor, Duck Hunt. My first experience I remember is trying desperately to shoot that laughing dog because I was very bad at it. Um, and then from there, graduated to the Super Nintendo and PlayStation and on. And how I got into a tabletop role-playing game was I was already way into fantasy by the time I was 8 or 9. My bedroom was plastered with wizards and unicorns and dragons, and I went to sleep with the Labyrinth soundtrack every night. So in my older sister's room, since I was her little sister, it was my job to snoop around and take anything I wanted. I found an AD&D player's handbook in her room, and I started leafing through it and looked at the pictures, and I went, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but I want to be a part of it. And so I took it and I hid it in my room and refused to give it back until she let me in on whatever awesome fantasy cult thing was going on. So she strong-armed her boyfriend, the DM, into letting me play. And I played a terrible, terrible thief that should have died so many times. But I had my sister basically threatened that if anything happened to my character that he'd be in trouble. So I was essentially immortal. Um, and thankfully I got better eventually. And just from there on, it was D&D for a long time, and I've also played, White Wolf games, The World of Darkness, Cyberpunk. Gosh, a ton of indie games. I have Tenra Bancho sitting on my shelf right now. Legend of the Five Rings, just all tons and tons of games I've tried out. And so I've also been a writer for a long time. I started writing my first novel when I was 8 years old. It was a blatant plagiarism of The Last Unicorn. And so as I got older, these two things kind of started to go together more and more. And so I've participated in, I don't know if you guys ever heard anything about the Legend of the Five Rings Race for the Throne competition several years ago. But I was a participant in that and placed with some of my fiction and essays in there back in so long ago now when I was 16. I did modding for the Baldur's Gate games. And one of the mods that I worked on ended up in PC Gamer UK when they were talking about mods for the video game. And just I did much of the writing for that, not all of it, since I ended up not being able to finish the programming aspect of that, and some friends of mine took it up, finished it up, and polished it. So I heard about the RPG Superstar contest through my husband last year when he just happened to see an ad for it on Obsidian Portal that we were using for our gaming, and he recommended that I try it out since he knew I had been looking into getting more involved in the writing aspect of gaming and just hadn't really done too much with it yet. So he recommended me over there. It was about a week before entries were due, and it had been a long time since I had really done anything with Pathfinder or even 3.5. And I submitted something so boring and forgettable that I wasn't top 32, I wasn't top 100, I was so dull no one even made fun of it. And but I did put a post in the Paizo forums like, I'm going to learn some stuff, I'm going to come back next year, and I'm going to see my name in top 32. And I did. And then some.
So now you've got this eclectic background in gaming, but what specifically does Pathfinder mean to you then?
Pathfinder specifically won over my affection a lot for not letting 3.5 just wander into, the same graveyard where AD&D and Basic are at, where just, occasionally you get some old-timer goes out with a shovel and digs them up, but for the most part, it was, you have to be progressive, you have to keep going forward, and then Pathfinder, came out after that. It's like, no, no, no. We're not just preserving the system, but they also took it and did their own thing with it. And that's something that they garnered a lot of goodwill from me for doing that. Since I wasn't fond of the direction that D&D took, unfortunately. It wasn't really my bag of rocks, so to speak. And so I appreciated them for that. And they also resurrected my interest in adventure modules, which was something that I was starting to think was kind of a forgotten art. It had been a long time since I'd used modules because I pretty quickly outgrew them. It pretty quickly became that I could do homebrews better than anything I could buy very easily. And the Pathfinder adventure modules, as I started actually looking at them, which it did take me a while to start looking at them, they were every bit as good as anything I would be able to do, just as fun, and a lot less prep work. So I'm really looking forward to sinking my teeth into those and actually start running them again once I have the time. So Pathfinder preserved for me a system of rules and also just a system of character that I didn't want to see get lost.
So just to let you know, you've got 4 minutes left for the last 2 questions, Victoria. Take however much time you feel you need, but you may be the first person we don't get through all 4 questions with.
I talk a lot, sorry.
That's your choice. Just making you aware.
Okay. So probably the most important question of the batch is why should you be 2014's RPG superstar?
So I have pretty good strength of writing. Lord knows I've been at it long enough. I should by now. And I've shown, I think, a lot of willingness to throw wacky design spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. I'm really willing to produce things where either people are going to think it's fantastic or they're going to think it's ridiculous, and I'm going to get laughed out of the competition. And I'm okay with that situation. But more than that, I am up against some absolutely wonderful contestants. I mean, if you look at their bios, some of these guys already have publishing credits to their name. Some of these guys have been in this competition for, going at it for years. And, it's this isn't a big fish in a small pond thing. I've got there's no one in this competition that I would feel bad losing to. That being said, if I don't advance this round, then, as I said last year, I was going to be in top 32 this year. I'm saying right now, if I don't make it into the final circle this year, you'll see me in 2015.
All right, then, which brings us to, who would win a fight between your round 2 monster and someone armed only with your round 1 item, and why?
It'd be a really boring fight, you guys. My monster was an incorporeal undead horse that possesses other horses. So unless the person wearing the veil that I had also happened to have a horse with him, there wouldn't be much that goes on. He basically smells some horse sweat somewhere and maybe some ethereal clip-clopping, and then that'd pretty much be the end of it. Especially considering the Bitter Widow's veil with its little emo charge thing. It wouldn't actually probably affect the Schwal at all.
Now, why didn't you name it emo points? All right, you've got 1 minute to soapbox right now, Victoria. What would you like to talk about?
Well, my last name is pronounced Jaczko.
Wow, I was so off.
It is Hungarian, and it throws everyone off. My husband decided to reclaim his ancestral family name from his European immigrant grandparents. So I understand why they changed it, because it is something that no one can say or spell, but we like it, and our kids will just have to put up with it.
So once again, it's Jaczko?
Jaczko.
Jaczko.
The phonetic spelling is Y-A-T-S-K-O.
Jaczko. It grows on you.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It's fun to say. You get used to it after a while. But yeah, whenever anyone looks at it, they either stop dead or, you get Jaczko, because that is what it looks like.
Okay.
Well, and so you can even find, it's what Jackson is derived from, potentially. Like, there's reasons to assume that's a J pronounced J.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Victoria, your time is up. Well, thank you for joining us. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on here. I'm between websites at the moment. I did have an author website. I will have another one soon. But in the meantime, if people want to get in touch with me, the Paizo forums, I am Belladonna Blue. You are welcome to contact me there. And people are welcome to friend me on Facebook or Google+. I'm also on Pinterest if anyone likes pretty photos as much as I do. Any of those ways is fine. And eventually I will be having some work up for publication via Amazon Kindle. And so if anyone likes my writing but hates my mechanics, then there is at least some other stuff to see of mine.
Excellent. Well, congratulations and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me.